Welcome to the final video in the series that carries the title Towards Ecoville. Now, clearly there's no such place as Ecoville, but the name suggests quite a lot. The Ecoville we'll be exploring isn't some mythical Eden set in the future. In fact, the Ecoville we'll be exploring is the result of what we're calling nowcasting, not backcasting, or the more usual forecasting, which is where most predictions of the future fail badly. No, nowcasting is about considering things we could do now as if we'd listened to some of the environmental cautions a little sooner. If you'd fully realised that we were living on a finite planet perhaps 100 years ago rather than the 1970s it seems to be. Now the key to thinking about our Ecoville is that if we were to find ourselves in Ecoville on a dark and stormy night, how would we recognise it? And then hopefully we would decide that we wanted to live there. The Towards Ecoville title actually comes from a project that was undertaken with some design students here at Carleton University a few years ago and has since been tried in Australia, New Zealand and Sweden. The aim is to establish what Ecoville could be like by identifying the healthy activities that would be undertaken in Ecoville and seeing how they could be undertaken in a healthy way. That sounds fairly simple. Now, the first basic feature of Ecoville is that the design, manufacture, use and discard of products is conducted in a closed-loop way. Waste is food or a valuable resource. Integrating a thorough life cycle analysis approach linking manufacture, use and discard with standards and guidelines to back it all up. And everyone would know what they should do with any product at the end of its useful life. It's quite similar to how the cradle-to-cradle towns initiated by William McDonough and Michael Brongart are going about things. But that's just part of it. The key is the bigger picture. It's about what we do in Ecoville and how we go about it. So how do we begin? When this project was undertaken previously, it made sense to investigate key issues such as food, transport, furniture and entertainment. But not simply to focus on foodstuffs, vehicles, draw units and TVs. The importance was in looking at the infrastructure and social patterns that they were part of. You see, every product, in a way, is a sub-assembly of a much larger system, which reflects us and our lifestyles. We all know the saying that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And in Ecoville, everything would need to be connected. But obviously, not all the links would be identical. So that's why we call them sub-assemblies. Like in a simple bicycle, where tyres fit rims that fit wheels, that fit brakes and frames, which fit bicycles and riders, who are in turn safely part of the road infrastructure. In many ways, the bicycle could be considered a finite world product, energy efficient, and made up mostly of single identifiable materials that are, when we get it right, standardised and interchangeable with other bicycles. All the components are potentially recyclable, with reasonable thought to their wear and tear characteristics. When a tyre wears out, we don't throw away the complete wheel, we change the tyre and recycle the rubber tyre. In contrast, the modern automobile could be considered to be an infinite world product. Each type of vehicle is unique, and thanks to electronics, almost unmaintainable today by the everyday driver. Now, sub-assemblies aren't a new concept at all. Notoriously, when we've had a man-made disaster of almost any magnitude, from toxic electronic waste to a tyre fire or to leachate from a landfill, it's because we got our infrastructural sub-assemblies wrong, somewhere. But on a more positive note, there's an old joke of someone who'd used the same broom for over 40 years. They'd replaced the head of the broom with its natural bristles and wood 3 times and had 2 new handles. But it was the same broom. You get the idea. Let's take an infrastructural look at cooking in Ecoville. Now, it isn't just about the food supply, which is globally and locally important. It isn't also about shopping reasonably frequently and about how we store our food. Remember, Canadians throw away about 30% of the foods we buy anyway. It's also about how we cook our food, about engaging ourselves in the act of cooking in a social context. The family meal is very much a social ceremony proven to be a vital part of healthy family life. These days, we eat on the go probably too often. The sandwich was invented long ago, but the balance between cooking and preparation and eating and cleaning up is an issue. No one wants to spend hours alone in the kitchen to see the food quickly eaten up as everyone disappears back to their TVs and video games. So here's one unusual example of a different approach that's quite common in Switzerland. You find outdoor restaurants where the customers fondue their own food. It takes a little longer, but everyone gets involved. It's all very healthy and very social. In the same vein, if we were to look at transportation, we'd have to consider not just the vehicles and their fuel sources. There's so much research in these areas going on already. The large issue lies in how much travelling we need to do and how the road infrastructure supports the healthier stuff like buses and bicycles and pedestrians. It's very different riding a bicycle or walking or cycling in a pedestrian-safe route. But these are cropping up more and more around the world. I think you're probably starting to understand the method for approaching almost any activity. So, for now, let's zoom in on a particularly fascinating human activity. One of the key needs of the citizens of Ecoville would be the drinks that they consume and how we can make those drinks healthy and eco-friendly. It's hard to believe that overconsumption of unnecessary and unsustainable drinks has become almost an epidemic in Western society. Beverages such as soda, juice, alcohol, energy drinks and others have helped lead to obesity, health issues such as diabetes and even organ failure, with excess waste and toxins leaching into both our environment and our bodies. So in Ecoville, to help us think about this, we'll first focus on the main ingredient, water and flavoured water. Everything from coffee to tea, juice, soda, milk, beer, wine and spirits. Water is the most basic form of drink, and with water making up about 2/3 of the human body, there's concern for people not drinking enough water on a daily basis. In Ecoville, the consumption of fresh tap water would be highly promoted for both health and as the preferred drink to the many alternative beverages. So water would be highly accessible, though not sold in bottles, just available from a tap or a fountain. Interestingly, in Canada, there are currently more controls on the water coming out of the tap than there are on the quality of water found in bottles. And here in Ottawa, we have an excellent aquifer putting excellent water into our domestic taps. But it would be naive not to realise that most people really like to drink flavoured water, coffees and teas being currently highly popular consumed liquids. Now, all coffees and teas are organic, and quite commonly we hear of fair trade produce, reflecting the way it's grown. But all that coffee has to be shipped long distances to get to us. Now, interestingly, there are many ways that we can create teas that are a lot closer to home. Another consideration is that coffees and teas are beverages that many people often like to add stuff to. Milk, sugar, creamer, sweeteners and syrups, for example. But there are many other healthy, flavourful and often more local options. It seems possible that tea might be promoted as the preferred drink in Ecoville, with many wide-ranging benefits depending on the tea's flavours and properties. I wonder what might be in a Tim Hortons tea double-double in Ecoville. Milk is also a drink where there would be many alternatives. There are some interesting options already available. Rice, soy, almond, coconut, hemp and flax, all offering viable alternatives and benefits. Ecoville would look into producing such options locally with the lowest environmental impact. But now we come to fizzy drinks, pop and sodas. Soda is a highly consumed drink and the flavours added are commonly synthesised and not too healthy, particularly for sugar. Ironically, the clear PET bottles and the aluminium cans that sodas are bought in contribute large amounts to our domestic recycling industry. Without them, our current recycling industry would struggle to break even. Yet it's obvious that in Ecoville, we have to question, why do we need sodas in the first place? Currently, you can buy your own device to make unlimited flavoured sodas for about the same amount that you can help establish a water supply in a village in what we call the third world. Now that's an interesting choice. But seriously, no doubt there would be sodas in Ecoville, likely with natural fruit flavours. Much of what we've mentioned so far isn't news. We generally know that bottled water is often sold for twice the price of gasoline, and that makes no sense from either perspective. Many people have come to realise the benefits of drinking extremely economical tap water, and fair trade teas, and in-season fruit drinks. But alcoholic drinks are also very contentious. Now, obviously there are concerns for overconsumption and addictions to alcohol, but every country, and even some animals, enjoy the results of the fermentation of fruit. Different forms of alcohols are produced around the world, and locally, organically, and at a small scale with a growing quality over quantity approach. But here's the twist. In the past, drinks that were bottled in glass containers were usually reused and refilled for at least a dozen times. When this was undertaken locally, it made good economic sense. Currently, we can buy beers, spirits and wines in our local stores from around the world. A few international beers are actually brewed locally. But many wines and spirits are shipped great distances in heavy glass bottles. Now, most countries make their own beer, very well I'm told, and the days of there being considered only 2 or 3 countries in the world that could make wine are long gone. So the question is, are the flavours of beer, wine and spirits so significant that we can afford to ship low-cost wines and beers around the world in glass bottles that may not be refilled? Are the flavours so special? It isn't uncommon these days to hear someone brag about the under $10 bottle of wine they just purchased locally that came all the way from Chile or New Zealand. Now, I know that they produce great wine in both those countries, but think of the environmental costs and impacts of transportation and wonder if it was really worth it. Perhaps when we buy our imported beer and wine, we shouldn't be so quick to criticise those who drink too much coffee or sugary soda. So, in Ecoville, everyone would make good choices with regard to what they drink. In Ecoville, there would be all manner of beverages for every palate, but their availability and how they would be drunk and in what containers, reusable and recyclable, would be well considered and just that bit different from today. And it wouldn't really be that difficult. Today, we usually become accustomed to environmental concerns as a consequence of their effects. Pollution and toxicity, for example. The key in Ecoville is to be holistic and not try just to fix existing practices, but to question why we're doing that in the first place. After all, there's no more justification in recycling a socially and environmentally unhealthy product than there is in leaving a socially useful product to pollute our waste stream. At some point, we have to go back to encouraging healthy human activities and doing them in healthy ways, and still having fun. So in this series, we've tried to offer some useful perspective with suggestions and ways in which important decisions and changes are being made in a variety of communities and countries. In this last video, we've used water as an example of how we can examine something apparently simple that affects all of us, to explore how some fundamental decisions can make a great deal of difference. And since water takes up about 2/3 of the surface of our beautiful planet, it makes an obvious choice. The challenge of how we manage our water supplies is not simply about thinking about what we drink. Water will probably be as big an influence on human activity as carbon is today. And there are many ways that we can attempt to mitigate our infinite world thinking, even for water. And this has been our link to how we started this series. Trying to find perspective by looking at the many interconnected layers of our metaphoric onion. On all fronts, there are a lot of challenges to face, with a lot of promise, real opportunities. The 20th century advanced our human activities by taking advantage of our ingenuity and our planet's natural resources. In the 21st century, we've become increasingly distanced from our natural roots. The future is about collective common sense and learning to take advantage of our social and technological development in a way that doesn't remove us from our world and force us to be ignorant of what's going on around us. Our ambitions shouldn't be to lie on a couch buying products from the shopping channel and ordering pizza every night, and then perhaps going to the gym for a workout occasionally. No, we should look to technology and innovation to engage us, to help us to be smart, doing things in healthy ways, using all the ingenuity that we can muster with ecological intelligence and integrity, and all the while enjoying living on and maintaining our beautiful little planet. Thanks for watching.